Have you ever wondered what it takes to get a unique vehicle on the road legally, such as a dirt bike, side-by-side, or even a race car, like the Volunteer Legends race car? Well, my name is Sean, and this is New Yankee Auto Systems. I have been working on just exactly that on two different projects, the Volunteer and the Petty Chevy. In today's episode, I'm going to be working on trying to get the brake master cylinder installed and bled so that I can actually test all of my brakes and hopefully get this vehicle onto a test drive soon. If you're not familiar with the Volunteer build series or the Petty Chevy series, make sure to check out any of the playlists over here for the Volunteer or the Petty Chevy. But enough plugging, let's get into the work, because I need to get this brake master cylinder installed because I really need to get this car completed. I'm very close, but I've still got a lot of work left to do. Here on New Yankee Auto Systems. In the last episode of the Volunteer build series, I was trying desperately to get both my clutch master cylinder and brake master cylinders replaced. However, I was able to get the clutch master cylinder installed, but I ran into a big problem when it came down to the brake master cylinder. I was able to successfully remove the brake master cylinder without much effort or problem. It was pretty much exactly how I expected. And once I was ready to actually install the new brake master cylinder, I realized I did have to first bench bleed the master cylinder. I didn't really think that was going to be a problem. However, the new brake master cylinder only comes with two plugs to plug it out so that you can actually bench bleed the entire system. There's 5 circuits on this new brake master cylinder, just like the old one, but the difference here is I was able to take my brake pressure switch from the old brake master cylinder and put it onto the new brake master cylinder. So that left me with 4 circuits. I have the 2 plugs that I can use so I can bench bleed the brake master cylinder. I still don't have enough ways to plug the master cylinder so that I can bench bleed it. I did remember that there is one master cylinder plug left on the old master cylinder that I can use. I am still going to have to figure out a way on how to plug that third hole so that I can bench bleed everything and get it installed. But that's what I'm working on today. So let's get started. What I am doing is extremely dangerous. This should not be tried under any circumstance. This cylinder is essentially acting as a pressure vessel as I heat it up. Do not try this at home. There is a very real possibility for explosion. Well, more bad news. Just keeps coming. So as you may have seen on the time lapse, I tried to have my heat gun onto the master cylinder so that I could heat it up and hopefully relieve that plug that's in there. That didn't work. Then luckily the gentleman that lets me use this space came by and he happened to have a torch that I could use. I said, okay, do you mind if I use that? Because I'm trying to get this master cylinder heated up to get this plug out. Tried that. Obviously that didn't work either. The reason why that wasn't working, I don't know what the deal is on either of these vehicles, being that sometimes they're a standard or imperial size versus a metric, but I tried to put the 5mm Allen key like I used on the Petty Chevy car and on this cylinder before, and it had a lot of slop in it. Now this Allen key that I have, not the socket one, but the Allen key, is not damaged like my socket was. So I figured as long as I could get it hot, I should be able to break it free and not have any issues. But it had some slop in it. So once everything wasn't working, I tried to go with a standard size, which is a 7/32. Ultimately is the one that was closest. The 9/16 was too small and 7/32 was too big, but obviously you saw I tried to hammer that in there because I just needed it to break free and be enough so that I could put it in the new master cylinder. Didn't work. Here's what happened. That metal did get soft enough that I was able to hammer that socket in, but it just completely destroyed it. That is how seized that this plug is inside of that master cylinder. It just will not budge. In this situation, I don't have the same opportunity as I did before where I got the last master cylinder plug out, where I could weld a nut on there and get that to break free. Honestly, it took that much heat from welding it last time to get it to break free. I don't have that same availability because I needed the master plug to stay in there and keep the circuit plugged, but I really don't know what I'm going to do right now. I got some ideas, I got some things that came off of Petty Chevy that I could try and reuse. I'm going to give that a shot and see what happens. Now, ultimately not being able to get that master cylinder plug out of the old brake master cylinder is not a failure. It's just not ideal. What I was trying to and hoping to do today was to be able to get that master cylinder plug out, transfer it over to the new master cylinder plug, one, so I can hopefully save a little bit in the budget. They're not terribly expensive. They're probably only about $4 plus shipping. But I was trying to be able to do something today. It was the ultimate ideal. And what I was really hoping for was that plug would come out and then I could reuse this, a former brake line fitting. This was in Petty Chevy. What someone had done was use this and weld it over the top, or this may just be an old style master cylinder plug. I had kept that and saved that because I should. I should just save whatever I can. I never know when I'm going to need it. Because right now the budget does not have any room to just go throwing everything at it that I need. But ultimately, that's what I'm going to have to do here. I'm going to have to buy new master cylinder plugs. So the long term is, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Any circuits that remain open in this new brake master cylinder that aren't going to be used, I am going to buy new master cylinder plugs and use. But again, I was hoping to be able to get this together today and bench bled and install it onto the car, and then I could have the master cylinder plugs already there if needed, or have to buy more. I wanted to get one step closer to being done, and unfortunately I didn't get that much closer. However, what I am going to do, I am going to take this old plug that was in the Petty Chevy car. I'm going to reuse this on the master cylinder along with my other two master cylinder plugs that I already have, and I'm going to have to figure something out for the fourth one that I need. Now, before I do that, what I am going to do is make sure that I just clean up any rust or corrosion that's on this master cylinder plug already. I'm going to use my Matco brake line brake cylinder fitting rethreader kit. I know, it's a mouthful. I already messed up saying it. But this kit is pretty awesome. What it is, it's essentially a tap and die for brake line fittings all in one piece. On one end, it has a tap so that it can go in and clean out any thread areas. On the other end, it has a die. So what I'm going to do is take this cylinder plug, run it into a 10x1 rethreading die, and that's going to be able to get all the corrosion off of the end of it. It's very simple. I'm not trying to force this. It went in very far, but it is starting to hit a little bit of the rust. So I'm going to take that off, blow that off real quick. I am going to put some PB Blaster on this. Just in case. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread that into the corresponding port that I need to remain blocked off. So I'm going to match to the same port that is already blocked off here, because I may have to leave this in long term. I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take the plug, put it into the master cylinder, and I'm not going to make this too tight because I may have to take it out. So I'm just going to do a quick vice grip tighten. I'm hoping that I'm not going to round any of these edges, but I don't want it in here too tight, so I don't want to use a socket because obviously there may be the possibility for galvanic corrosion. I think that's what's happened on this old master cylinder. I think this master cylinder is made out of an alloy or a cast alloy, and the plug that's in there is either steel or some kind of metal that doesn't seem to work. I think this had essentially galvanically welded itself to it, and that's why I couldn't get it out, and that's probably why I had so much issue with the last one. But anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and give this a final snug up. Again, I don't want it too tight. I don't want to round the edges. I don't want it to be something I can't get out, so I'm not going to tighten that down with a socket because I don't think I'm going to be able to get that back out if I do that. Next thing I'm going to do is take the rest of the plugs out of the master cylinder, and I'm going to install my bleed screw plugs. I'm going to install my master cylinder plugs. I made that mistake last episode. I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm just going to tighten these in by hand, and then just get a little snug up on the vice grip. I don't need it to be super tight. I just need it to be able to hold enough. The other thing is I don't want to break the plug. If I break the plug, I'm screwed. I've already had enough bad luck for today. I don't need any more. So now I've got my reused master cylinder plug as it was used on Petty's Chevy. And then I've got my bleed screw plugs. I still have to figure out this last hole here. I do have one more brake line fitting that will fit in it. I could possibly weld the end of the hole shut. Remember, I'm just trying to plug this off so I can bench bleed it. This isn't a long-term solution. But I don't think that goes in there long enough, so I'm going to have to go raid my stockpile to see if I have anything that'll work. Okay, so I looked around in my parts bins. I don't have anything better than this fitting that I already have right here. It's a little short, but I think I have the answer. So, what I think that I can do, and what I'd seen as recommended in the instructions for the brake master cylinder, you can also make bleeder pipes that go back into the master cylinder. Now, that's what I think I'm going to have to do. I do have my last small section of 3/16 brake line that I have on hand. I should be able to get that taken care of. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a bubble flare, not double, bubble, with a B, with my flare kit. So this isn't going to be a true bubble flare because this is not a bubble flaring kit. It is a double flaring kit, but you can get a pretty crude and effective bubble flare out of the double kit if you just do the first step. This is not how I would do it if I was making a permanent brake line on a vehicle, but for this purpose, it's going to be what I have to do and what I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and get my tooling set up, and I'm going to go ahead and do this single flare to make a crude bubble flare with my double flare kit. Yeah! Got it. Maybe I didn't get it. Let's give it a shot. Again, this doesn't have to be permanent. It just has to work. Just has to work. Just a short-term solution. Doesn't have to be perfect. But it does have to work, yeah. Oh yeah! So effectively, this is what I have now. I have my 2 master cylinder plugs, the plastic ones, in the end of the circuit. I do have my brake pressure switch on the top, so that should be a closed circuit as well. I do have the reused previous master cylinder plug from Petty Chevy, and then I have my bleeder pipe. What I did with this is I made a tight 90-degree radius as much as I could here to be able to get the pipe to come up. And then I did as close to a 180-degree bend that I could here, so that hopefully I can actually put this inside of the brake master cylinder while I bench bleed this. Now, here's another issue I'm going to have with bench bleeding this. The master cylinder is riveted onto the tin of the body. Of course it's riveted. Everything's riveted. My drill, my 3/8 drill, yeah, that kind of took a crap recently. I don't think I could really drill that out even if I wanted to and didn't have broken equipment at the time. So the reason for that is where the engine is and where the master cylinder had been placed so far close to the engine. Unless I had a right angle drill tool, I don't think I'd be able to get in there. I mean, I do have an air operated one, but I also don't want to drill out the rivets on that if I can help it. Just, it's not necessary. If it becomes to the point where it's just absolutely a nightmare to try and hold this either close to the cylinder or to the brake master reservoir and it's just not working out, then I'll do that if I have to. But I really am trying to not do what I don't have to because I'm already facing enough issues as it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my master cylinder over to the car, plug it up to the brake reservoir feed lines, and then I'm going to dunk this inside of the reservoir, and hopefully I can use my push rod on the end, and it's going to be a little tiresome, but I'm going to have to hold this and bench bleed. Not bench bleed, is it? It's Sean bleed. Let's go ahead and Sean bleed this master cylinder. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. At the back of the car. The reason why I'm back here is because I am trying to bleed out all of my brakes now that my master cylinder is installed. Just like last time, my front brakes bled out perfectly fine. They gravity bled. I was able to vacuum bleed them. I pumped them up a bit and it did feel like I had pressure. Now, it did still feel like the pedal was going down to the floor, so I moved on to the back of the car. On both sides of the car, I cannot get any fluid to come out of the bleeders. Now, I do know that I have brand new wheel cylinders on this vehicle. I have a brand new brake master cylinder on this vehicle. I've got all new fluid on the vehicle. If you have watched the videos before in a previous episode, you would have seen that. I think it was the refurbishing my brake calipers episode, where it looks like the brake system was actually left open for probably a very long time. There was a ton of rust inside of that caliper, which pretty much indicated to me that the system was open, fluid had leaked out, and then rust was able to creep its way in. So with that in mind, I ended up coming to the back of the car and I started undoing the brake lines from each side of the vehicle, because what I was going to try and do was undo a brake line, get a vacuum feed on it, and if I pulled vacuum on it, then I knew that brake line was bad. So I tried to do that on both brake lines. I didn't have any results once I took the brake line fitting off of the brake tee back here. I didn't get any fluid to come out of it. So I honestly didn't even bother trying to get my vacuum on there to see if I could get some fluid. The next thing and the last thing that is pretty much questionable at this point is the brake hose. Now there is a small junction back here where there is a brake fitting that I have already loosened and was able to get brake fluid out of. So there is pretty much one section of the brakes left that could be problematic still. Again, I've already replaced the wheel cylinders, I've refurbished the front brake calipers, they're bleeding out fine, I've got the new brake master cylinder on there. I shouldn't have any issues, except for this one section, this brake hose with the T on it. Now, I'm thinking that the brake hose has collapsed. It is very tight, it's hard to move, it doesn't feel like it has a lot of flexibility in it. What I'm going to try and do is, seeing as I've gotten the fitting on the brake line that runs all the way up to this brake hose loose and I was able to get fluid out of it, I'm going to go ahead and take off the T at the end here. I did already break this loose. No, I'm not that strong at all. I'm going to go ahead and take off this T and see if there's any fluid that comes out. That'll tell me two things. If fluid comes out, then the hose is still good and the T is bad. If I take the T off and there's no fluid, it's possible the hose is collapsed. Looks like there's some fluid at the end there, but I don't see anything coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and get my vacuum bleeder and see if I can pull some vacuum on this and get some fluid out. If I can start getting fluid out and it consistently gets fluid out, I'll leave the hose alone for now. I may have to end up replacing it anyhow, but then I'll hook the T up and see if I can't. Actually, I might also try and make sure I can blow any crap or debris out of the T to see if I can't salvage any of this. I don't really want to just throw parts at it, but I don't want to not have the right parts on it in case it needs it. Be right back. Alright, so here I am with my vacuum bleeder. Let's try and get this onto the hose and see if we can pull any fluid out of it. Come on, nibble. Let's go. While I'm doing that, I'm going to turn my compressor back So, I was able to blow some air at least through the brake hose. So it tells me it's not completely collapsed. I mean, look, I'm just going to try and blow some air through these things to see if I can get brake fluid out of them eventually. I'm still ultimately 90%, 95%, 99%. I'm going to replace that brake hose. I'm going to have to. I just do not trust it. But for the purposes of trying to see if I can at least get fluid out of it so that I can get fluid into my wheel cylinders and try and at least feel like I've accomplished something today, I'm going to go ahead and try and blow some air through this T and see if maybe the T is the problem as well. So let's make a mess. Well, now I have air coming through every side of the T. So I'm really confused as to why this was blocked in the first place. I'm going to throw it back together and see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to replace that brake hose. Just I can't do it today because I don't have one. So I'm going to get at it. Throw me a frickin' bonus. I've got brake fluid coming out. Oh, yeah. I did a thing. I did a thing. But, we got a leak. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. You. I don't know where you are. Oh, I'm leaking fluid. I'm leaking fluid. Here it is. I got it. Ah, wasn't tight all the way. Okay, that's all right. I can fix that. I can fix that. That's not that big a deal. I can fix it. We can fix it. Okay. Alright, let's get some cleaner. Give this a spritz. And we're gonna need to give it a spray. We can get this off. Okay. Ah, crap. Wasn't too prepared for this. All right. Let's open that again and see if we still have a leak. Open. Got a good healthy dribble. Might be good. Alright, so let's recap. What was I able to accomplish and get done today? I was able to get my brake master cylinder installed to the vehicle. That part didn't really give me too much trouble, except for the fact that I had to figure out how to plug up the master cylinder so I could bench bleed it. Once I had that installed, I moved to the front of the vehicle and I was able to get the calipers gravity bled, and then I moved to the back of the vehicle where we found that we may have an issue with the actual rubber brake hose that's in there. However, I was able to blow air through the hose and then eventually get fluid to come through not only the hose, but both brake lines and out the bleeds on the wheel cylinder. So I know that I can get brake fluid all the way back, so I don't have any issue with my hard lines or with my master cylinder. It may just be that rubber brake hose. I will work on trying to find exactly what rubber brake hose I can use to replace that so that I can at least know that that is done and it shouldn't be a problem in the future. So I want to thank you guys for making it to the end of the episode. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, New Yankee Auto Systems, and follow us on all of our socials. We have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. But for now though, I do feel pretty good about the progress I was able to make. I may not be finished with my brakes, especially because it does still feel like there is some air in the system. I am going to have to get a second person to help me bleed those out, but I am that much closer to being able to get the brakes done and ultimately get the car finished. So for now, I'll see you on the next one.